Power Automate that we can do it with Power BI. So I'll start. Just give me a second. Let me first share my screen. Just to give you a background, I'm a data analytics and a regulatory reporting Asia lead for ING Bank. Give me a second. Yeah, let me know, guys, if you are able to see my screen.
Yes, the screen is visible.
Light because I don't think so. My screen is getting.
I think I'm
I can
seeing
see
it
your I
seems.
can see your screen, but I think you're sharing the wrong window. I think you're
Yep.
sharing the Teams window. Yeah.
Okay, give me a second. Yeah, I'll put it to. Give me a second. The PC became a little bit slow. Okay. In the meantime, I'll just give you a brief introduction about myself. So I'm a data analytics manager here. Give me a second. Allah, this is becoming.
What you could do is just that slider on the bottom of your screen on the right hand side. If you move it a bit larger, then just use it that way. There you go. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
awesome,
Okay,
fantastic.
okay. So this is okay. So just to give you a background, what we are trying to do in a session here is that it's full filled with a lot of small demos where we can see how we can use make use of Power Automate to do a lot of tasks in Power BI. That might not be so simpler in a sense while doing it directly from the Power BI, and would have restrictions in with respect to licensing and all the stuffs. So that's where we are coming from. So we'll so the biggest on to going forward, just to give a small introduction, Power BI, everyone being from Power Platform community, everyone knows what is Power BI. It's a simple BI tools doing for reporting, data visualizations, and it helps in integrating a lot of stuff, not only from the data flows perspective, from so-called forms perspective, so-called from triggers perspective. So this is how Power BI is a suite where you can do a lot of data analytics stuff, just not only data analytics, but to help. So there's a lot of ETL tasks that can be achieved outside of Power BI that would be easier in terms of Power Automate, and then the data can be fed to Power BI where it can be used more efficiently to build more proper dashboards or reports or trigger alerts on those perspectives. Going ahead, so it just gives you the components of the Power BI. We have Power Query, Power BI modeling. We have a DAX storage engine and tabular models out there. We have a DAX query and MQuery to do the queries from the data perspective. Then we have a lot of analysis tools from Python, R visualizations, and then result presentations on the visualizations. On the same part, if you go towards the Automate, you have so you will find with respect to Power BI, you will find four different tasks and one trigger point from a Power BI perspective. So once the trigger is Power BI data alert, and other tasks are add rows to the data set, refresh data sets, download paginated reports, download reports. They are all in the preview mode, the download of reports, but it's still available on the flow. So what we are going to do now is that we're going to go one by one individually on these tasks and trigger points and see what are the different scenarios we can cover from these tasks, how we can use these so-called Power Automate flow, Microsoft previously called as Microsoft Flow, to do all these automations. First, I'll go with so the biggest part is the refresh data set. So we have a lot of Excel data. Usually if you go towards finance people, if you go towards operations people, you don't find they do a lot of Excel reporting. To be honest, they are not more familiar with so-called Azure services or self-service BI reporting in terms of data models and all this stuff. So they usually do it with Excels. So now, how do you refresh Excels? Because Excels are gonna go. You cannot go and open every day up your Power BI desktop, or you cannot have, and your Excel can can come into picture mainly maybe 10 times a day. It can refresh on due to some operational tasks happening outside of the so-called daily task. So how you can do it? The best way is to refresh. You can do the same thing in Power BI as well by scheduling a data set refresh. But sometimes what happens is you do then you need to go back. The schedule refresh might not work in a sense where you cannot have a restriction towards in what scenario, in what frequencies you can do it. But with respect to automate power flow, you can power automate, you can use it in a very different way. You can have your own frequencies defined. So let's start one with okay, let me show you a report. uh, Go back to my workspace. So this is simple report. Give me a second, guys. Give me a second. Yeah. Yeah. So if you see this sales report, mm, it's a simple sales report. It's on the basis of the countries and the years. If you see, these are the okay. First, let me see the manual one. Simple sales report divided on the basis of individual products. Okay, so this the data source of this is this Excel. So if you see, uh, you have a lot of you don't see any test product as part of this Canada. So we'll add another row towards this Excel and see how does it get refreshed so easily. Um, okay. Okay, I'll change this product to test underscore demo just to show how it reflects so easily. Once it is done, I just refresh. I just save this Excel. Once the Excel is saved, I can go to my flow. Okay, I'll just run first. Let me show you the flow. So this doesn't do anything, but I can trigger it on the basis of whatever I need, even in seconds, in minutes. So this is a very custom option where we can do it. So I'll just test this flow just to so I'm triggering it manually right now just to show you how the data gets refreshed. So it shows that right now it failed. So we'll see why it failed. So it gives you all this data information also just to solve it. I think it has taken okay, so it has exceeded the number of requests on the data set because I'm working on a pro license. So I think the refresh is only 8, but we can do a simple one again. So we can build one more in front of us itself easily. Okay. Okay, I'll save it as some other report so that I can publish it again. Till time is getting published, let's get this. Let's get. Let's show you the another one in from a dataset refresh perspective only. Uh, yeah. So if you see this, so this one is more mainly on the scheduled refresh, but we can always go back and do a button click refresh also. Give me a second. Where is my slideshow? Yeah. So, so this was from a schedule that we will do. We will come back to once it just get published. On this one, on the API request, so you can create a button where you don't have to give access to the users to your dataset also, and still the dataset can be still refreshed. In a sense where they don't have access to your workspace, but still they can refresh the dataset. So that we will show you just now. Uh, okay, so if you see this another report here. Mm, yeah. So if you see, you can this one will configure in front of you also again. So how does this a button works and the API works? So this is an API call where we can first let me get this data, at least bombard some data with something. So France doesn't have anything in 2020. Let me get this to a gross sales to some. Hmm, and make it to 2020 where we can see that at least either data is refreshed. Okay, I'll save it. We go back, we click. So this is a request towards this API. Okay, give me a second. It goes bad, goes back, refreshed. Okay, so this one will build in front of you. So this is this report. Okay, so if you see this one, so what does this happen on this one? So this is an API request on the data flow that we will create right now. We can go to the flows. Okay, we'll create my flow. We'll go to a new create flow where we will request an HTTP request. So this one is already created one for you, but we will create a new one from here. We can go to an automated cloud flow. We can, okay, give me a second. on, click. We'll create dataset API refresh. Okay, we'll skip for now. When a HTTP request HTTP request is received. Okay, we'll leave this as of now here itself, and we'll go to the next step. Okay, before that we'll just publish this report, so it's a new data set, so it doesn't have that issue of the publishing of the amount of refresh it requires. Okay, so let me publish this. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go, we click on this report. So now we have another data set here, so we can go back to the flow. We put our new step, we'll put it as Power BI. Refresh data set. That's under my workspace. We put it under the demo, and we just click it as save. Okay, once we are done, we will have this so-called post URL, which we should copy. This URL we have to wrap it with an API, so make it a GET request. So that's something I think it's a very open source, that is wrap API. Okay, wrap or wrap API. So this can be you can use this site. You can create your account into it. It's a free account. It allows you around about 30,000 API requests on a monthly basis. And once you reach, you need to upgrade it to another level. So what you can do, you can we'll create a new one. Okay, you put it as post your API link that you got it from there. Okay, enter these values. So these four values that I'm going to enter is going to be same for all of us. Only thing that just change is going to be the SIG ID. That's something we'll put it out there also. So I'll copy paste this one. Okay, so first is this SP. So you can break this URL into four variables out there. SV is slash triggers slash path slash run. So you can see slash path slash run. Then another one is your so-called SV, that is your 1.0 API version is last is SIG. SIG is unique to each API request, so you need to copy this one till the end. You can use the get request, but sometimes get request has some issues with the power flow, so that's why I don't use the get request directly from the flow. So usually I do wrap it with this one. Okay, so it's gonna run, it's gonna have a failure out here, then we need to push it onto the endpoints. Test underscore demo. So there's an error out here which you can solve it very easily. Okay, so that's something. You will have a repository here. I have a Power BI repository here. Endpoint, I can put it as demo. Then I publish this one on version 1. So you'll get this API endpoint. So you can just copy. You can go to the report now. We'll go to this API request. We'll edit the report. On action, just go there, make it a web URL and change it to this so-called the endpoint that you have got it here. Okay, so once you got this one, save this report. Once the report is saved, you go back and now you can always click and test the flow. So it says true. Now we'll see all the data getting refreshed now. Give me a second. Let me check it. What's happening on here? Test this flow manually. Why it's not running? What's the issue? It's It should. Okay, give me a second. Let me see what's happening here. Why it's yeah. Why is that triggering it? Shows me it has run. It should have run it by now. Mm, it's going off. Okay, in the meantime, we go to the man one also, so that at least we see if it's getting some refresh with the dataset issues. Okay, we go to the my flows. We'll create a new one for the normal manual trigger of the flow. Just give me a second. Maybe that is having an issue. Power BI data set, refresh. Uh-huh.
Hey Prince,
Yeah,
we have a few suggestions over here.
yeah.
Maybe they're saying that you might have put SV instead of SP somewhere on the parameter when you're passing it
Just
on
give
the
me a second.
variable.
Let me see. Let me see. I don't think so. Just give me a second. Maybe I should there also. Okay, let me do another one then. Let's build a new one. Okay, give me a second. Wrap API. Uh-huh. This should be SPSV. I think I did a correct one, but let's see, do it again. If that is the case, it's not getting triggered. It should get triggered by itself. Tom control V. Put it to post. SP slash trigger slash path slash SV.0, and then the third one is API version 2016 0601 and key sig. I don't think so. Something is that is the issue. Shift.
Hey Prince, there's one more thing. So once you add these query string parameters, shouldn't you
Yeah.
remove it from the URL?
So it auto cuts it on its own. So if you
Okay.
see there, it's auto cuts it on its own. The wrap, it's wrap it with that one. Yeah.
All right. I missed that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Published. Go to the use. Let's copy SNG. I go back to my sales report. I go again, edit. Ideally, it should work. It's strange. It's not. Report saved. It goes back. It goes back. That is true. Then there is. Hope it should have run this time around. Ah, finally it got succeeded. Maybe I misprinted some of that stuff. Okay, now give me a second. See, finally you got it. So you can see the numbers have now gone to, you got the 2020 numbers out here. So that is so that is one of the very stronger ways in Power Automate Flow, where you can use this refresh data sets on a API request. You can do a lot of things on API request. You can add rows, you can tell, okay, now I've taken a snapshot of today's report, then you refresh the data again, or you can do so-called add rows to data set. So these are the different trigger points where you can use all you can use it. Even you can use it to send emails also. You can make it a trigger point, make it as an email. You click someone, you can add the query concatenation to the query strings, and then create multiple users send the same report by just clicking on this button from the report itself. So you are trying to build a solution out of the whole thing. So it's becoming an end-to-end solution. The more we go, the more Power BI becomes more older. It's getting linked to all these different products of Microsoft, making it more end-to-end product in a sense. So this is done with the API. So similar things you can do it with the so-called dataset refresh on a normal pane. You can do it with the just with manual triggering it from the flows itself. That is already there. So now coming back to the slides. Okay, give me a second. Okay, so this one we did it API one. Now the next one is how you can build a streaming data within the where you can use this from flow, add rows to dataset preview to do a, you can build a streaming data set out here. I have used this one from an example called where we are trying to track a power so-called station of location of the station. Just give me a second. Let me open this report for you. Okay, I think I have it here itself. So let me see. Back to my so-called. space station. So if you see this one, uh, I'll just show you some simple stuff within the space. So you can see this is from yesterday. So it's every 2 hours is updating this streaming data. So what it's going to do is that it just goes to, okay, give me a second. Yeah. So we came to the report. So you can see this is a space. So we're trying to build a stream data from a space station where it is locating. So it's moving the points across. Um, we can go with a small demo for this one. So I'll just show you from a dataset perspective. Um, okay, give me a second. First, I'll show you how this dataset looks like. Okay, okay. So if you see this one, this is okay. Let me show you the edit. This is a streaming data set. So what we have used an API request to do this streaming data set. Okay. So I'll ping you the links also from where we have got this API. So it's a simple API. Uh, yeah. Okay. So this is from ISS International Space Station. The API gives you output in JSON, the latitude, longitude, and the message and the timestamp. Okay, so it gives you the four parameters out values, and that then you can use this parameter values to do your then you so it gives you every time you query it gives you another value, it gives you a new set value. So what we can do, we can create a streaming data set. This API, we have used this one to do the stock pricing within the banks. So some people doing stock pricing within the bank, where we do use the streaming data to get the data, historical data, and then we publish it on the basis of the report. So it keeps on changing it across. So this one, so what we did it in this report was we created a streaming data set where we called it as an API. Uh, okay, as we have short of time, I'll do I'll not create it from a scratch, but I'll show you from this from here itself. Okay, so you create a streaming data set where you can go and edit. You can put it as an API. You put what kind of columns you're going to receive it from there, and then it gives you a proper JSON schema in what it should look like, and then you can enable the historical data analysis to keep the historical data. And as part of your subscription of Pro, and you can have around about 200,000 records for the historical data, and then it auto deletes the older one and keeps on updating the newer ones. So this is what you can save it as historical data within that. If you don't have the so-called premium licensing from those perspective. What you can do it as part of the flows, that is the where you're pushing the data every time one by one. um, Let me go back to my flows. So if you go to the streaming data set, okay, so it's nothing, it's just a manual flow. It's triggering I've triggered every 2 hours, something like that, so that at least it doesn't put too much of data into the map, and it doesn't look good in a sense. Uh, so it triggers every 2 hours. It just put us it's simple API request. This To be honest, the Automate developers are very nice in a sense that they have. So uh, so it just gives you don't have to do anything, just put a URL out there, and then you can pass your JSON. So the JSON that is getting as an output from this API request, you can pass it, and the biggest part is that you can pass it from an example. So I'll just show you. Give me a second. Open. Yeah. See, so what I did, I generated it from a sample. So you can just go ahead, you get the output from there. Get it from there, go back to the flow, paste it. Flow. Okay, so once you do click done, it actually refreshes the whole thing. Okay, it actually refreshes the whole thing, and then you can so you can generate it from the sample, and then once you get it, you can add to the dataset that you require to. Okay, so you can it's a very simple one. You just know, tell us the dataset that you have put it as a streaming dataset there in your workspace. Put it so it adds it to the real-time data table. It creates a table on its own, and then you just can. So if you see, it gives you the data from here. So you have a dynamic content here where you can get the data from whatever the output from the API request has generated, parse it, and then you can create those message, latitude, longitude, and timestamp. But I'm not using the timestamp from there because the timestamp in the so-called JSON request was very in a different format that I could not recognize it. So I used it on different. So I used the UTC now function to get it as part of the GMT time zone. So having said that, so once it is done, then you can go ahead and create a report over this the so-called data set itself. So it's quite a revelation in a sense, where you can use open source data sources to connect to the Power BIs and create the streaming data set, and then you can use that data set to do the reporting perspective. Same thing, you can do a lot of ETL so-called ETL transformation over on in the Power Flow also. With respect to Power Query, you can use the Power Query to do a lot of transformation for the data sets, and then publish the data set to these so-called tables. So these are the stuff where you can see it's quite an advanced version of integration between these two beautiful apps from Microsoft, where we can use different stuff to do different things, and get the best reporting output onto the things. Um, so give this one. Okay, so this one so it's a very even you can use a so called if you don't so if you have subscription of PubNub, you can use the PubNub. There are three different perspective. You can use the Azure streaming analytics, or you can use it via API. You can build a streaming data set from a PubNub. So these are the three different options where you can build the so-called APIs, so-called data sets towards this one. uh, Another one that I was talking previously was that download the PBI reports to a shared drive or an email. So this is also then with this download, it's not going to be a single page download. It's going to be a full-fledged download of the reports. Where you can it downloads the whole thing, and then you can place it as part of your OneDrive, or you can send it over the emails, or you can send it to the different people across, depending upon how you want to configure the flow. I can show you the flow in this one. Where is my flow? Give me a yeah. So if you go back to the flows, okay, so we can go to the subscription sales. So it's a very simple flow. So usually automate with Power BI, we haven't used too much of coding in a sense in the Power Flows, but you can use in the coding perspective, from a advanced version of the coding, to do a lot of more different tasks to it. So it just so what I did is just a recurrence every month once. If it's a monthly report, daily report, or depending on what kind of a report it is, you just put it as report, which format you want to push it across, whether it's a PDF, PPTX, or PNG. By default, it's a PDF format, so you can put this format. then you can put it across, if you want to include the hidden pages or not and all those stuffs. These are the custom things that you can do it. What we tried certain custom things, but it did not work it out, so we usually do it with a simple PDF format output. And then you can use a send email notification, attach the reports to it, or you can save the same report into a OneDrive. You can save it to if you have if you have a gateway, if you have a Power BI gateway, if you have a data gateways, you can save it to your local drives of your whatever local drive you have placed it as part of the gateway. So these are the different things you can do it as part of the so-called subscription. From a subscription perspective, you can do it on the simple reports, you can do it on the paginated reports also. So the new paginated report that has come as part of the release of 2019 2020 November, I guess, if I'm not wrong. So these are the different things you can do it in a sense. Now coming back to data alert. So this one is more from a task perspective. What are different tasks from a Power BI in Power Automate? Now coming back to uh, you can have data alerts. Okay, so these data alerts triggers, it's usually on the premium capacity. If your reports has to be part of your premium capacity, even the workspace has, so then only you can use this, but it only works on the dashboards. So these data alerts are very tricky in a sense, or it tricky in terms of how you put it across, because it keeps on updating the same value, because if it has reached a certain value, it will keep on triggering every day the same thing. But you can have expressions over that alert values, and you can increase the alert values as well. But with the data alerts in this so-called gross, how you can make use of these data alerts, in what scenarios. For example, you have a financial report where you have so you have to maintain a liquidity ratio. So you can use these cards with the liquidity ratios, and you can just put it, okay, if the ratio goes down and this one, then it triggers an alert so that everyone knows about it, and then the traders can quickly see it and see, and people from financial finance perspective can help them get this get the liquidity ratio back in control, so that at least we don't people don't get into a regulatory alerts, regulatory issues and all those things. So these are the different places where you can use this alerts from a banking perspective, to make sure that the it doesn't go out of the hand, the situation doesn't go out of the hand. You just don't come at the point of reporting only you get to know that this is you are failing on certain maintaining certain ratios out there. So it only works on three visualizations as of now. It's card, the KPI, and the gauge. All the three I've put it across here. So and then it's very easy. You can just go ahead, go to your workstation, go to the Power BI, go to this card or KPI, go to the manage alerts. You can hover across the so-called Eclipse, and from Eclipse you can go towards the manage alerts. From manage alerts you can go to the, you can alert a value, and where you can set different values, where you can see the condition, whether it should be above, below, what kind of even the expressions can work out here. And then you can use this Power Automate to trigger additional actions, like putting a report to sending an email to notification to someone, sending a notification to the whole teams group, sending a notification to the management, so where they can maintain this ratio and all those things. So this is something you can format within whatever you can, however you want to do it from a actions perspective, that is there. These are the basic four ones. Then on top of it you get a lot of more different scenarios where you can do it. You can use Power Automate with help to do some tasks in Power BI. For example, there are certain tasks that you don't want your Power BI to do in terms of modeling, in terms of Power Query flows, setting up those flows. So you can do those as part of the Power Automate, and get the data cleansed, put proper ETL done within the Power Automate, and then send the final output of data, which makes it the report model less bulky, as well as it makes it the report doesn't have a lot of performance bottlenecks within the reports, to be honest. So this is what you can, how you can use both the worlds to make it more intuitive, more so-called more performance oriented, or in a sense making use of the automation, reducing the manual tasks within the Power BI. uh, I think I'll put it as QA. I'll go back to, I'm not sure whether there are some questions out here.
There's a few questions, Prince. So some of the questions revolve around licensing over here, but
Yeah.
this one is interesting. So does using Power BI API applicable only with premium license of Power BI?
Uh, no, it's applicable with the Pro also.
Okay. And
It's
also,
applicable with the Pro. Yeah.
so are alerts available for dashboards with a Power BI Pro license?
No, it has to be with a premium one. It doesn't allow me because I tried it. I think now you're getting a per use premium per user licenses out there that is as of now free, but I think you need to configure something, but you can use it at that. It has dashboard has to be part of the premium capacity to have this triggered data alert triggered.
Okay, that's cool. And I
To
think
be
we
honest, it's
have
not
some
cool,
more
but
time left.
that's how they have put it as a licensing licensing.
I mean,
Yeah.
Adrian just shared a blog post that says that the licensing kind of has been revised, or probably it allows you to set those alerts, but maybe
Uh, uh,
there's
yeah,
something that we'll
yeah,
have
I
to
didn't.
get
I tried
into.
it today, but it didn't work. It maybe I was doing
Okay.
it something wrongly, but I tried it today, but it didn't work. It sorry, to be honest. That's why I went towards licensing and all the stuff. But they all saying that it's premium stuff to be there. Even the subscription also has to be as part of your premium capacity to make it work. So both things has to be on your premium capacity to make it work.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
And Prince, I would also recommend if you could share your social media links or web
yeah,
places where
sure,
people can connect with you on the chat, so that if
sure,
they
sure,
have
sure.
any questions, they can reach
Yeah,
out.
I'll send you the LinkedIn. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. And
Yeah,
since we have about what, 5 or 10 minutes left, if
yeah.
somebody has any questions, please post them on the chat and we can have a quick Q&A as well.
Yeah. And sorry guys for the data refresh thing. I think just took too much time, to be honest. I didn't want it to took so much time, so I wanted to do a streaming data more, but it's something happened that and it didn't work it, to be honest. But I think it should work. Let me see what was the reason behind it, and then I'll come back and put it out that. Okay, one more thing from that API request that we did it. You can even use this the get request from the. Okay, where is this one? Yeah. Just to show you guys, we did a wrap one, but ideally you can use this one as well, but it usually has has given me errors in the past, so that's why I usually avoid doing it. Come on. Okay, create a new one. It's like this. Skip. HTTP. So if you see on the advanced options, you can always change the method to a get one. Okay, then you'll get a get one, and it usually works with a simple task, but once the request is triggered, sometimes it doesn't get with the proper actions from a Power BI, so it sometimes have an issue. So usually I do a wrap one, but you can always use this one to get it done. I'll stop sharing if Just anything? Just any queries?
I don't see any questions, but thank you for posting your LinkedIn URL over here. If somebody has any questions, they can definitely reach you out there.
Mm.
And
Thanks for hosting. Thanks for being such a nice host. Apologies for the issue happened at that point of
no,
time.
no, no
Maybe,
problem at all. It's
yeah,
just the demo gods. It happens.
yeah, yeah. So,
And anyway,
so
thank you
sometime.
so much again, Prince. So I think it
Thanks.
was an insightful session, and we can definitely try this out
Sure.
to see how everything works.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right. If anybody has any questions, any further questions, they can please post on the chat. All right, everyone. Let's move to the next session. I think we have Chris over here. Chris, can you hear me? If you're speaking, you're on mute.
Hey, yeah, I'm still on mute, so.
All right. So Chris is going to present about power to the virtual agent. And without further ado, all over to you, Chris. So please share your screen.
Okay,
And let's just check if it's working fine and we can get started then.
okay. Let's check on that one. Let me quickly get my PowerPoint ready. And
Okay.
so how has it been already today?
Sorry, what was that?
How has it already been today? Like already a lot of
It's been
crowd?
pretty good. So actually, this is the third day of the Power Automate version of the Automation Bootcamp. We started on Friday and yesterday was Saturday. So we've completed a lot of cool sessions on Power Automate, then Dataverse, a little bit about RPA, hyper automation, and whatnot. And now it's Power Virtual Agents from you. So I'm really excited about this.
Okay, super. Well, if everyone's ready, well, welcome then. My name is Chris van der Mast. I live in Belgium, where it has been snowing since yesterday. So we had a nice snowstorm. And this morning, because for me it's like 3 p.m. in the afternoon, we had a nice snow walk. Quite chilly, but apparently it's like -9 degrees. So yeah, of course, you're now most likely sitting warm at home, and hopefully with better here. So let's go and check out this session. First, a small word about myself. If there's like, by the way, there's any questions, I will try to take a look. If there's something on Teams, if I don't see, please just interrupt me for the moderator. Okay. My name is Chris van der Mast. I live in Belgium. I've been a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional since 2007, first for ASP.NET, later on for Azure. I'm also a ASP insider, and in Belgium, I run together with some friends the Belgian Azure user group called AZUG. And also every year I run the Cloud Brew conference. Last year we didn't do one because due to Corona, and we decided not to go virtual because we like to focus on like the small, cozy people get together, like a couple of hundred of people, meeting each other in person and having beer also during sessions sometimes or during the breaks, I mean. Okay, so that's about me. If you have questions later on, I will share my Twitter account, and well, you can already see my Twitter account, but also my email address if you want to stay in contact. Okay. So first, a little bit about me, because this session is going to be about Power Virtual Agents. Virtual agents don't exist since 2016, but I've been busy with chatbots since September 2016, mostly for larger enterprises, and I worked with a slew of technology. I started out with IBM Watson, with Lewis AI from Microsoft, bot framework from Microsoft, which basically means like a lot of programming and coding from my side, which is okay because most of the time I'm just doing solution architecture or also like development, mostly with C#, but also with other languages. For example, currently I'm learning Python because my wife is doing a PhD. And is now making use of a lot of things like TensorFlow and PyTorch and then Python stuff. So yeah, I'm also interested in that. So in my free time, I also make use of Python. For the chatbots specifically, we went into production with our first chatbot in 2017. And basically this session is going to be like part of like what we encountered with chatbots. And then later on, I will make sure that we also have like some demo material with virtual agents. So first some slides, and then some demo. Okay, so bear with me. I created a multi-tenant platform based on IBM Watson Assistant. Pretty nice technology back then, because we didn't, IBM Watson already had like ways to easily, for business then people, I mean, easily make up chatbots. Something with bot framework, which means a lot of coding, you couldn't do. Of course, nowadays we have Power Virtual Agents, hence this session, which also democratizes that part. Okay, so a bit of the agenda. Let's talk about the do's and don'ts of public agents, or chatbots, like we used to call them in the past. And then also, of course, Power Virtual Agents and what we can do with it. So first of all, when we started in 2016 with chatbots, they were like very much overpromised. It was like, yeah, everything is going to be put into chatbots. I still remember all those stories like, oh my God, we're going to lose 30% of all the personnel because everything's going to be taken over by bots, especially in the help desk centers. They were very much afraid back then. And something I noticed that, and I had to explain this to every manager I ever encountered because they were like, oh, chatbots, chatbots, chatbots. Oh my God, chatbots. And it turned out to be that chatbots are actually basically pretty stupid out of the box. So if you asked it like, how much is 1 + 1, which is kind of normal, like it should be 2. And the bot says, because it didn't learn it, well, I have totally no clue what you mean. So that was a big disappointment back then. And I remember around I think like 2018, people started to notice like, okay, chatbots, okay, been overpromised. We should do something about it. So I think it was an article from Forbes, as you can see here from the bottom. And they say like, look, oh, we're now going to call it virtual agents 2.0, because 2.0, that's always better than the first batch, of course, because everyone has been lying to you in all those fancy articles that you buy from Gartner or whatever. Let's do something else. So we're going to say like, we're going to underpromise, but we're going to overdeliver. Basically meaning like, instead of like saying like, oh, we can do this, no, we're going to say like, we can only do this, but we're going to actually achieve this for you. And if we don't know, we're just going to say like, look, we don't know. We're just a bot. We're just trying to learn. And you have to iterate further on that as a developer or as a business person. So this is basically a life cycle of an agent. So basically, you first, of course, start planning, because if you want to make something, you should have something of like a plan, of like a meaning, like what are we going to try to do to make the life easier for the people who are actually going to make use of our bot. Then there's like a building phase, some testing phase, because, well, before you publish it, you just want to test it if it's not a bad bot, of course. And then you connect it to all kinds of things like Facebook, to Twitter, to a mobile app. And then we're going to evaluate. And then we're going to reiterate due to that evaluation. And we're going to build again, test again, publish again. What we noticed is that the planning phase, when I was just back then like trying to learn all the new technology, all the stuff, nobody by the time actually dared to touch it with a stick. So it was a bit of a small adventure in 2016. Yeah, technology wasn't there yet. It wasn't easy. A lot of competition was coming up, especially from the main vendors. What we found out is planning for our business people. They took like, I think, 3 months of planning, like, yeah, we're going to do this. And then whenever the person asks this, we're going to act like that, and we're going to do such. Turned out to be in the evaluation phase after we put it up for like, I think, 20 minutes, it was live. And all those 3 months already of planning went already down the drain because people were asking completely different things. And so that's basically what I want you to learn from this slide. So if you plan, don't put a huge amount of effort into the planning phase, like, oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, we have to act like this, or we have to act like that. No, just put some like simple plans, get it into production, evaluate as soon as possible, and then reiterate on that and keep learning. I remember at a certain moment in time, I had to like deploy newly trained stuff like 20 times a day or so. So be prepared to actually build and ship it like 20 times, 50 times a day if needed. So this might be one of those plans. So one of these charts, like, oh yeah, we're going to do this, and then we're going to ask that. In the beginning, our business people actually made a lot of these diagrams. And it's good because it's like the main holders, like what are topics, what are potential things that people might ask. And back in those days, they made this with a certain tool. I think it was like some online tool. And then later on, they copy pasted this kind of in the IBM Watson or Microsoft technology stack. And we noticed fairly quickly that it was difficult to keep things on par because, like, yeah, people were trying to do this and then trying to make it in the bot. And it was very difficult to keep things in sync. So ultimately, we started drifting away from this. So we made a big plan like, okay, this has to be done, this has to be seen. But the real stuff and rapid building and deployment was done in the bot itself. And I think personally now with Power Virtual Agents, that's pretty nice to do so, of course, as well. So you can make a lot of plans, but don't go too deep and don't write down everything because actually our business people, they made like a lot of effort to really write down all the answers that we could give in one of those endnotes. I would say like try to refrain a bit from that because otherwise you're going to give yourself double work, double the time and double the effort. And it's better to put the effort in rapidly deploying and re-evaluating cycle. Okay. So This was basically the first bot that we created. It was a mobile app for youth in the banking sector. We had a funny logo. It was all over the local banks over here in Belgium. And this was kind of what we expected of conversations. Like, how can I open a bank account? Because it's a banking app. Tell me a joke. It's for youth, so the target audience was about from 13 till 2021-ish. So you could ask them to tell some joke or some riddle or whatever, or transfer €5 to Mark. That last one took actually a couple of years later. I recently heard from one of my former managers, because I don't work at that customer anymore, that they're now doing this for real. But remind you, 2016, we're now 2021 beginning, so 4.5 years later, this is finally getting into place. Something else that we expected for an HR bot, on which I also worked, is like, how many days can I still have this year? How many holidays? I want to start on vacation. I'm sick, I'm not going to show up today. Also potentially cancel my parking spot so that someone else can take it. Those are the things that we were expecting, all that planning up front. Turns out to be that people ask completely different things. For example, in our first bot, some people asked, and this was mostly like girls around like 14, 15 years old, like, hey, I like you, but I want to get married to you. It's like, yeah, okay, that's an interesting thing that we did not foresee. Another thing that we didn't foresee was like, hey, according to me, you're not a bot, you're some dude somewhere in an office. I'm going to find you and I'm going to punch you in the face. Okay, we also didn't see that coming. Luckily, nobody showed up in the actually in the office to come and punch us in the face. But yeah, apparently our bot was pretty convincing, so people really thought it was a real person. Something that we didn't really expect, but unfortunately it also happened, is like, hey, I want to commit suicide. What shall I do? Shall I take pills? Shall I cut my wrists? That was harsh. And even though we did not really expect it, it happened more often than we expected, actually. I think in the first 2 days that we went live, already 3 people asked for it. So the first time I saw that, unfortunately, because our bot was like a bit of a funny bot, so making a lot of jokes for youngsters, it didn't really answer in the correct way. So it kind of made like a bit of fun of the person, I think. I just start telling a joke, so not really the answer that you want to have. So when I saw that passing by, I quickly called to the business people like, hey guys, we really should give a different story. So the next time one of the persons asked them for that in those 2 first days, and later on, of course, is that we now basically redirect those people like, please call this phone number. It's a suicide prevention line, or just go to this website where there's like a lot of information about suicide prevention. And I really urge you, like, if you have a public bot, to also foresee something for this. When I did a job interview at my other company for that HR bot, I was telling the same story and they didn't believe me. After their bot went live, they also had several people asking for that. Like, look, I'm depressed. I don't like my work anymore. I don't see a future anymore. So we really have some answer for that, like really a good answer, and not reply with a joke or something. And then the other way around, like, we started to see people telling jokes to the bot. Unfortunately, sometimes some racist jokes, especially from youngsters like 14, 15 years old. Want to be like, yeah, the big show-off man, like, hey, I know some very bad joke or a very dirty joke. But some of them really were like kind of fun, and we tried to reiterate it and make our bots a bit smarter with incorporating those jokes. Actually, it was kind of fun to see those things also happening. So basically, when you open up a bot or a public thing, like, be prepared to see like the really dark side of the people, but also the light side of the people, like the good side. So be prepared for both. After all, you're talking and dealing with people. So yeah, there are lots and lots and lots of different people, lots of different backgrounds, and yeah, someday you might end up happy, someday you might end up getting out of bed like completely miserable. So yeah, we're dealing with people here, so that's basically be prepared for that. right through our life cycle. So what we also planned was like this language. It's English. Everyone can read it. But this is also a language. It's Arabic, by the way, for the people that don't read the language. And this is also a language. It's basically simplified Chinese. So we kind of planned for that, not the Arabic and the Chinese, but in Belgium we have 3 official languages, which is basically Dutch, my native language, French, German, and of course we also speak English, which is our unofficial language. So we created 4 bots, each with their own language. What I also sometimes see is that people make use of like a translation towards English and then have like one bot completely written and then educated in English instead of like each language separately. For our customer, we opted to go for like 4 different bots. And the main reason was because each department wanted to have their own bot. So the people in Wallonia, in the French-speaking part, they wanted to have their own bot and maintain it. And the people in the north from the Dutch-speaking side, they also wanted to maintain their own bot. So that's why we decided, like, look, let's create separate bots, but make it multi-tenant so that we can still share some pieces of information, like a certain code that goes to documentation of the website or something like that. This is something like you have to decide with your business if you're going to do for that. Like either you're going to translate every message that you type in, like say, for example, if you ask a question in Hindi or in Mandarin or in Arabic, for example, that you either translate it with a very good translation tool, say, for example, like DeepL or Google Translate or Bing Translate, for example, and then train your bot in a specific language, most likely English or so, because a lot of those bots are making up for that. Another thing that we didn't quite plan for is that we also got a lot of answers like this. Like, okay, I can still understand that smiley or funny face. Kisses, I think it's also pretty good, but what to do with like a giraffe or a T-Rex? We didn't really know from the beginning like how to deal with these. So after a while, we also noticed like, look, we can categorize these and then make up like chatbots and then think like, okay, if they're asking something with a, or answering something with like a T-Rex, seems someone is not on mute, because I hear some strange noises in my earset. So basically, yeah, we also had to make up like something for this. Took a bit of programming, but we were able to catch those things. And then, of course, like adaptive cards. Adaptive cards is a technology from Microsoft, and it really makes it nice to show actually like a certain kind of answer. So just instead of like having like a text or just like an image or a link or something, which was basically from the beginning of the bots, Microsoft also created adaptive cards, not just specifically for bots. It's mostly meant also for all different types of applications, but it makes it really handy. Later on in the demo, I'm going to show you like, look, with adaptive cards, we can also make use of that in Power Virtual Agents, but not out of the box, unfortunately. So I made a bot yesterday that I'm going to show during the demo, and then we'll see how to make use of that adaptive cards. So if you didn't watch adaptive cards yet, I will show you like how does it look like. Okay. So I'm going to start a small video here from Microsoft and just watch that like, I think it's like 1 minute or so. Okay, cool. So let's try to open this website, adaptivecards.io. And of course, it doesn't want to open. So if you go to this website, here you also get the same video. You can see it's already like made for several things, and there's still a roadmap. So I'm also in contact with the people from the adaptive cards. We also use it in our new HR bot a lot because it really makes it interesting to make like request response things. There's a full documentation set over here if you want to gather more about it, like how to render, how to author. And there's also like a schema explorer. So basically it's all JSON behind the scenes. So this is basically how it looks like, for example, with a lot of properties. So this JSON-like file will render later on like this. So as you can see here, you can also make like in the comments, you can get some button functionality, some images. It's all pretty nice. There's some samples, of course, and let's take a look at these. So this one we already saw. There's like a calendar reminder. So basically, this JSON over here, this is the data. This is also something new in the later versions of adaptive cards. Wasn't there since the beginning. It's called a templated JSON, templated some adaptive cards. So, or like, for example, like a flight itinerary. And I don't know about you, but I'm really looking forward to seeing these kind of symbols again because it means I can travel again. Due to COVID-19, we're basically all stuck at home. So I'm really looking forward to seeing these kind of things again. Of course, you can also go like food ordering and say, for example, let's order some steak, some medium rare, and nope, I don't want further things. And then this can, for example, be executed, triggered by an API, something gets ordered in a restaurant. So it makes it way more interesting than just either like calling or just also like typing in everything like, hey, I want to order a steak medium rare. So this is already giving people a choice and guiding them into the bit of success. Of course, there's like a lot of other things that you can do over here. What I also like is that you can also have like a designer over here. And this designer, if it opens, because it takes a little bit of time, apparently. Okay. So either you can here start like putting like, say, for example, like this, like a new text block. I can type in this. This is basically like a online editor, a bit like, let's say, Visual Studio, but inside the browser and specifically for adaptive cards. So this is what I find easy to give to business people who are like, yeah, they know if they can drag and drop. They don't really care about like certain properties or whatever, or what is a text block or how does it work behind the scenes. They don't really care about that. But here they can simply like drag and drop like a column set or a container, some input number, for example. I think that's pretty easy for them to understand. So basically, this is what we also incorporated. For the HR department, our latest bot, which is in a digital assistant, it's an application that people can make use of to provide their days of holiday or sick leave or whatever, or ask how much holidays they still have, or get an overview of their current paycheck or latest paycheck, or a history about that. We also make use of extensive use of adaptive cards because it's really easy, visual, and it renders pretty well in a browser or in a mobile app. For Android, we had some problem like, I think like a year ago, no, a bit more than a year ago. So we were able to get into contact with the people from Microsoft and really got it resolved pretty well. They're also very much interested in those cases. So that team is still working on it. They still have a roadmap. I think version 1.3 is coming out soon. So yeah, basically those people are very helpful. And if you have some feedback or so, you can always contact those people. Say, for example, here we see that it's version 1.2 and 1.3 is coming. So with new extra stuff coming in, pretty handy. We like it a lot. The great thing is that we also created our own environment, something like Power Virtual Agents look and feel, but then something based for our own, and it generates .NET code that can be incorporated in the bot framework way of working. So the nice thing is that also this designer can also be used because it's also open source. We found it somewhere on GitHub. And you can just incorporate it in your own application. So it doesn't always have to be through this website. You can also get to it basically by just incorporating the code and have it in your own designer. Pretty handy. Okay, back to the slides. Now, of course, I showed it already, and I see I'm going way faster than I originally intended to do so. But what I created is this. So basically, I just going to assume over here that you already saw during the last 2 days Power Virtual Agents. I think like there was a session a couple of hours ago about Power Virtual Agents in combination with Teams. So I'm not going to explain fully the basics over here. I'm just going to show something that I created yesterday. And then I'm going to show you like, look, how did I solve certain things? And I'm going to make use not only of Power Virtual Agents, but also a bit of Power Automate. And the result over there, you can see here on the right. And also, I also created something with the Bot Framework Composer, which is a relatively new tool because it's still in preview, I believe. It's based to make bot framework coding, because that consumes a lot of coding, to make it a bit easier to also get like a visualization of it. Okay, so I created a new bot yesterday, specifically for this session. And I turned off these lessons, those topics, and I created a new topic called Vaccination Center. So the main idea about this bot is like, I want to know and get a time slot of when I can be vaccinated. Because I don't know how it's in your country, but in Belgium, we are now on a waiting list and we still don't know when we will get our vaccination. It's still like, yeah, going up and down. So hopefully somewhere within the next half year. Fingers crossed on that one. So I created here a small thing over here called Vaccination Center. And let's just go into this in this topic. So I just gave in a couple of trigger phrases over here. So when can I be vaccinated? When can I get the vaccine over here? And this is the sole purpose of this bot. Another purpose of the bot is like whenever it doesn't know about something, it will show you like a card like, hey, please look it up on a search engine. And for the search engine, because we're Microsoft technology, I opted today for Bing. But of course, if you want to replace that later on with your own personal technology of choice, you can do so pretty easily. I'm just going to show you how I solved it. So let's go here to the authoring canvas. As you can see, pretty straight next bot. And let's first show like how it works. So let's first go into an unknown intent, something that it doesn't know, it's not trained for. And let's see like when will it stop snowing? My bot is not trained for that. So it should now think about, okay, I don't know, but we can ask on Bing. So when will it stop snowing? So this is all news on Bing, of course. This is the unhappy flow, but even for the unhappy flow, I provided something like a backup plan. So I redirect the person who is asking the question, and I'm redirecting that person to a search engine. Okay. Now, to get into the happy path and also take a look here, because basically what we're also going to try to do is like inject for each registration for that person, their age, their name, their zip code, and the date when it will when they are going to get registered. And of course, we want to make it easy for those vaccination centers, and we're going to save everything into an Excel file. So here, and the nice thing is about Power Virtual Agents, so you can always see here on your canvas while testing, like where am I? And here you can also see like which variables are going to be taken. So what's my name? Let's go. My age is like 41, let's say. And I live in Mechelen, which is a city in Belgium. Now it's going to think a bit. Basically, the thinking is I'm going to call to power automate. I still have power flow in my mindset because that's the name of how it used to be in the past. So it's going to answer me again like you're Mark, 41 years old, and live in 2800. 2800 is the postal code of the city of Mechelen. And then it's going to show us like a nice adaptive card here, like, hey, you're registered. Hey, Mark, you're registered to get your vaccine on and a specific date. That line also over here got inserted. So also here we have the same type of information with a certain date. So it's going to be on the 6th of August. Now, how did I get to this? Because this is all pretty nice to see. I'm going to reset this one, by the way. And when I was making this bot, I had to overcome like a couple of things. First of all, the zip code, because I call it here zip code BE, because for us it's like 4 digits, like 2800, 2910, something like that. And by default, our virtual agents provided me with the US zip code. So I created a custom entity for that, and I called it zip code BE. And here I felt I typed in like a certain type of list items, 2800, and I gave it a synonym of Mechelen. So if I type in Mechelen, as you could see during the demo, I got back 2800 in my variable. Of course, the same for Essen. I was a bit lazy, so I didn't type in all the thousands of list items over here. So it's just like to get you a basic ID. Okay. By the way, if you have questions, you can ask later on in the chat, or if you want to ask now. But let's go further a bit. So the vaccine center, you also notice like I wrote something down here in my Excel file on the right. So how did I do that? First of all, I get all these questions that I'm asking, and I'm putting variable names. Now, an important thing is because and this is something relatively new in Power Virtual Agents. In the past, it was always just like, hey, my variable is just around here, around the corner, and I can pass it around. But mostly it's like limited to the scope of this canvas. So by default, whenever you make like a new variable, it will be mostly like topic, like limited scope, or you can give it on the global scope, like the bot global scope. And this is what I had to do over here. And we'll see later on why I had to do that, because I was going to work with the bot framework composer. So for that, it needs to know like, hey, what's the bottom topic over here, the variable name. So here I'm just going through my questions. So what's your age? Where do you live? And then I show that message that we saw here before. And well, perhaps we just do it again. Vaccine. Okay. And Esmeralda is 27, for example. So now it will show this message, and she should be showing up over here. Okay, good. And now let's go back. Because I had that track between topics, of course, I went into another different state. Let's go back to our overview over here, to my vaccination center. Okay, side by side, and just here to see all these things. Okay. Now, to get all this information over here in this Excel file, because this Excel file lives on a OneDrive, what I created over here, which is called it's an Excel online on OneDrive, vaccination registration.xlsx. And in there, I created a table. So basically, I just gave like name, age, zip code, and date. I targeted like these. I went to like my table design, and I said like, look, this is a table. It has a specific name. This is basically table 1. So whenever there's something like coming in through Power Automate, we're going to make the connection and create a new record for each time it's being triggered. So here I could do my flow. So let's go here to my flow details. Let's open this one. So you see, we just ran it like successfully several times, which is all nice. Let's go and edit that. So what I provided over here are like 3 input fields. I gave them a name, an age, and a zip code. Remember, those were those questions that I asked over here. So here I coupled those over here when I was making that one. Let's see. Sorry, let's close this one. I already had it opened before, but let's do it like this. The only thing is, like, the downside is that we can only make something of text, a Boolean, or a number. So it's a bit restricted over here instead of compared to other Power Automate flows. Then I'm creating a new variable, which is that date, which is going to make over here, and I just create the function over here. So I make this expression just like take UTC now, just at 180 days, like half a year, and provide that as a variable. And now here with Power Automate, I could couple this registration file, the one that we saw over here. This Excel file is being coupled, this table, table1, which is this one. I completely don't understand. I think someone is unmuted and is trying to ask something. Okay. So here I can say, like, add a row into this table, table1, like name, age, and zip code. Remember, these are things coming from over here, hence that greenish color, and our initialized variable, our date. Now, as a output parameter, I'm going to make use of this date again because the date has been put into Power Automate, but I also want to show it in Power Virtual Agents. So with my return value, I also show that over here. And here's also how I make the binding, like Power Automate outputs one given value. So I can here couple that to that bot.date, which you can see over here. So that bot.date will be again shown over here. Now, what I also did was I want to show it a bit like in a nicer way, like in an adaptive card. So this is that date that I'm getting, and this is the name of the person who registered. Now, I can also add here, like, and this is, say, for example, call an action. It's taking a bit of time to load everything. Sorry. I think I'm in the wrong thing here. Sorry. Okay. So my redirect over here, it's stating like show location card. Now, show location card is something that I created in Bot Framework Composer. So how did I open that? I just went here, I clicked on this on this part, and then it takes a while a bit to initialize that and open that Bot Framework Composer. So this is Bot Framework Composer. This is another tool from Microsoft, relatively new, but very handy. It's basically also something that you usually make into combination with Bot Framework. But to make some very nice and interesting dialogues. I have another one. I'm going to start it already in the background. And while this one opens, okay. My weather bot. Okay. So let's close this one. Okay, this is not what I expected. I was expecting that my other bot would still show here, but apparently not. Okay, let's see if I can open this one over here. So this is basically the experience. I can give an update. So basically what's now trying to do is like pulling everything from our Power Virtual Agent, the latest and greatest update. So this is my bot, how it's called, like vaccination bot. You can add here like new triggers. And one of those triggers is our Bing search. So you saw in the beginning, like whenever I type in something that our bot, our Power Virtual Agent is not trained for, that it shows a card like, hey, you can, I don't know, but you can find it on Bing. So this is how I did that over here. So I gave you like a default recognizer, and here I made like a new trigger. Like whenever it's something like unknown, basically like it doesn't totally know anything that you trained your bot to go to, we're going to create a new, we're going to make like a new dialog, and it will jump to this one. And it's just going to show us a response, like an adaptive card. And here we're going to say like, look, whatever you provided to us, like the text that we got as an input parameter from Power Virtual Agents, we're going to make use of that in our function. And then you can go here to our bot responses. And here, and let's close this one. Let's show this in code. So basically this function will be called. So this is the text. And this is an adaptive card, like an activity card. And we're going to pass in to this function, which we made up here. So basically we're going to now, the text that we provided, like that our Power Virtual Agent isn't trained for and doesn't know about it, it comes in here, thanks to all that binding. And this will make up that schema for an adaptive card. So resulting in like that Bing search, providing that URL, like, sorry, this URL, the Bing search, and you pass in the already like the question of the person that he asked for. This is how Bottom Framework Composer works. We also saw like another like location card.
Hey,
Once
Chris,
that person, yeah.
Quick request. Can you please zoom in a little bit because the text is like very small.
Ah, okay. Let's try here. I hope I can zoom in a bit. Let's try here. Is this more readable?
Yep, this is good.
Right. Okay, let's do 200. Otherwise, it's becoming very.
Yeah, I think 200 is fine.
Okay, super. So.
Thank you.
Yep. Oh, thank you for saying that. Now I just lost my mouse. Okay, here. So for that Bing search over here, and now I have to scroll all the way up here. Okay. So basically, this is just this is how that card is being made up. So if we scroll down over here, so basically this is the function is being called when we send a response in our bot framework composer, and this is the function behind the scenes, which is going to get our user utterance. And if I go up here, so basically these adaptive cards will be shown. So see here those 3 tick back marks, and also over here, this is going to define the boundaries of our card that we're going to show. So this is how you can get adaptive cards in Power Virtual Agents, just by going to here. I was kind of hoping, because I saw it in the roadmap, like I think February, March last year, when I was doing a presentation about Power Virtual Agents for the first time and in real life from audience. Then it was somewhere on the roadmap, like, hey, we're going to have this incorporated adaptive cards in Power Virtual Agents. Turned out to be that this is going to be the solution apparently at the moment. It works. You just need to install another extra tool. The nice thing is you can also make use of it, of course, if you want to go full blown with bot framework from Microsoft instead of Power Virtual Agents. So you can basically reuse these, and that's pretty nice. Okay, let's zoom out over here. Okay, now for that show location card, I also added a new dialog over here, and this is going to send a response. Let's go and zoom in a little bit over here. So this is just like in Power Virtual Agents, you can add over here things like you can ask questions, create conditions, looping, dialog management, like, hey, I know I'm now right here, but you can jump over here. The documentation of this tool is actually pretty good. I learned this I think in one evening, just how to go around and then do the things. Of course, all the finer details, I didn't fully go into those yet, but most of the common things you can learn in like a couple of hours or perhaps even less. There's a very good tutorial on the Microsoft Docs, by the way, about this. I think it's like 7 lessons. I just went through all of it like a couple of weeks ago, and it makes it really handy to get up to speed with this tool. So it's pretty handy. For this one, let's be here. So this response, I just pasted this text in, and let's go over here to see this text. One thing I don't really like about this tool is that I have to scroll a lot, like horizontal scroll. It doesn't show word wrapping or something. That's something that I hope they're going to fix whenever it's out of preview, but for the moment, this is how it is. So basically here you have like your thumbnail cards, your result, and this is like virtual agent. This is basically what's being sent to the card. And there you can see the name, and this is the name of the variable that I put up here. So I'm giving it the name and also the date, and that's how it resulted in that card that you saw in the end in my Power Virtual Agent. And I took some COVID-19 image just that I searched on internet. I just copy pasted that into here. Okay. So this is about this tool. Let's close this one. And then later on, if you are, of course, ready, you can just go here to publish. You click on this one and you say publish selected to my events. And then if everything goes pretty well, then you see here like a green check mark. Okay. Great. I'm going to close this one again. Okay. So basically, this is how I made some of the part. So you see, pretty easy. I created some Power Virtual Agent. I made some good use of more functionality to fill up this Excel file by just making use of Power Automate. And then to show all those nice graphics and cards, and you can really go pretty wild over there if you want. You can also make use of it, of course, like putting more, like choosing more things like we saw in that Adaptive Cards Designer earlier on. You can also make use of that over here. So I just wanted to show you like, look, this is a possibility to just, instead of just showing a dry text, you can also make use of adaptive cards to make it a bit more lively. As you can see, I'm not a designer, so I just picked up like a COVID-19 logo over here that I found on the internet, but most likely one of your internal designers might make like a very beautiful looking and warm and fuzzy image over there. So this is basically how I solve this. I also want to show a little bit about the bot framework, of course, and now it closed everything because I closed the other one. Let's see if I can still find over here. No. Okay, this is a bit of a downside of the tool. And let's quickly open this one. I just want to show you, because now you only saw like a couple of very simple dialogues in the bot framework composer. And let me drag this to the other screen. Okay, so this is my weather bot. And this is something that you can find on the documentation. So if you want to create this bot yourself, you can perfectly do it just following the documentation, all the samples. It's like 7 steps, and it's pretty nice to follow. So here you can have like a cancel, get weather, or a help me. Of course, the most interesting one is this dialog. So where it will ask you, and let's check the weather, ask you for a zip code, do some activity, get some user input over here, and then quite an interesting one. It's like calling an external API. In this case, the Open Weather API. So I had to ask for a key, which is free, by the way, up to like, I think like 10,000 calls per month. So if you're interested in such a thing, I suggest that you also get a key over there. And then of course, like if else over here, like if my HTTP status code is 200, then we're going to say like, hey, this is this type of weather. And then we're going to show it in the thumbnail cards, like in adaptive cards again. And if it's false, like, hey, okay, then I'm going to show you something else and reset our zip code over here. Also for those answers, I'm going to show you over here. Sorry, this is the one that I'm actually interested in, show code. And let's zoom in a little bit again. Okay. So again, like adaptive cards over here, another thumbnail card that we saw before, and then also like I got that error that we saw before on the false statement whenever the HTTP status code is less than is different than 200. And also like I can, depending on the JSON that I get back from that external API, I can also go into the description of like, hey, if it's like thunderstorm, then I can say instead of like thunderstorm, I can say like, hey, there's a thunderstorm going on, or it's drizzling or whatever. So this is how I can knead a bit in an if-else statement way, or like switch statement, and act upon data that I get back from other parts. You can test this and say, for example, start our bot. So basically what it's now doing is like compiling behind the screens, and this might take a little bit because basically all those dialogues are just like JSON based, but they're also like bot framework based. So you can also make these use into Power Virtual Agents as we saw before. And we can also test them in the emulator. This is another tool from Microsoft. Basically, this is originally made to emulate. And let's see, my emulator started, of course, on my other screen. Let's try that one here.
Hey, Chris, again,
Yeah.
it's like the screen is like the text on the screen is pretty less in font size, so it's not visible at all.
It's not visible at all. Okay, let's try to change that one. Let's see. Let's try to pimp up the. Is this better?
Yeah, this is pretty good. Thank you.
Okay. I hope it continues like this. Okay, let's. Okay. So basically, this is the bot framework emulator, which you can also make use of for the bot framework. Whenever you're doing like coded bots, this is also the tool to go to. So here it's saying like, hi, I'm a friendly bot and I can help you with the weather. You can say weather. So I'm going to type in weather. Let's check the weather. This base is on an American zip codes. So let's go for like 90210, which is going to be supposedly Beverly Hills, if I remember from the old series in the 80s. So the weather for Beverly Hills is apparently now misty and 280 degrees. So I hope that's not going to be Fahrenheit, but it's going to be Kelvin. Otherwise, it's going to be extremely hot over there. And then you also get some nice looking logo. And this is also, again, such a adaptive card, of course. So this is how that thing over here works. And you can also here say like, yeah, this is the bot state. You can message over here. You can see all the traces. So this is my trace of this open weather map. So I provided also here my zip code that I put it in here. Of course, yeah, this is hard-coded US because this is from the sample. And here I got like the entire conversation over here back. Let's see over here. So this is the message that you get back. So you can go fully into all the details that you want to. Like this is a thumbnail card with all the kind of information. This is this logo over here. It's also being made over here. So this is the URL that we provided. So this is how you can test those kind of things. The testing of the bot, actually, of the designer in this one for Power Virtual Agents, that at the moment is not quite there yet, unfortunately. Also, what you cannot do from Power Virtual Agents, if you're going to make use of the bot framework composer, is that you can not apparently make use of things like Lewis.ai, which is a separate service from Microsoft. That's still a limitation. Because basically all the utterances and all the entities are in Power Virtual Agents itself. So it kind of makes sense, but the first time I opened this, I was like, okay, I can make use of this, and then I can make use of Lewis AI because I already have like a fully trained schedule over there. But apparently, that's not that combination is not possible at this particular moment. I don't know if it's going to be there in the future. We'll have to wait and see. Okay. And for this one, I'm going to wrap up over here with my presentation. And let's go and check over here. And current slide. So basically, if you have any questions, because basically we still have like 5 minutes before the next session, you can either ask them now, or you can get into contact with me either on this email address. I try to tend to take a look onto it. I have to already mention, I already have like a lot of emails that I still have to wade through since last week. So it might be that I don't respond within like the first 2 hours. But let's hopefully within the week or a couple of days, I will be able to answer. And otherwise, just follow me on Twitter for more information, or you can ask me, and hopefully we will see each other in real life after everyone gets vaccinated and travel is possible again. Okay. Well, thank you for your time. I hope you learned something new. I hope you found it interesting. And I will just urge you, just go to docs.microsoft.com. There is a very nice information about either Power Virtual Agents or about Bot Framework Composer. That Composer is really something interesting. I was pretty much amazed what I could already do with it. And it's just still, as I know, in preview mode. So I'm really looking forward to the final thing. Okay. Thank you all for watching. If there's no questions, then I would just say like, enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Sorry, the rest of the day for you. Grab a drink and take a break, and up to the next session.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. Actually, there are a couple of questions on the chat, so I'll read those out for you.
Okay.
There's one that says, is there an option to import the local zip codes into the entities using a bulk import or PowerShell or Power Automate rather than just typing it individually?
I think it should be possible, yes. I didn't go through the effort right now. I was also thinking about it, so there should definitely be something. I think my solution would most likely be like, we first try to get the information with Power Automate, like say, for example, like an Excel file, and then go through in there, like whenever you fill in like the zip code, make a call, see where it is, and then bring it back, and then put it as a bot as a bot variable in our Power Virtual Agent. I don't recall that I saw that I can upload like full lists for custom entities. Perhaps that's going to be there in the future.
Okay.
So yeah, for the moment, it's just like you still need to make use of some of those things. It was the same with IBM Watson, by the way. We also had to do those things over there.
Okay, cool. And there's one more question that says, how can we automate testing of the bot before deployment to check in case of all business transactions and all the scenarios are working as expected?
It depends on where you do your testing. If it's, say, for example, like in Power Automate, for really like functional testing of, like, say, calling an API or something, there are some testing possibilities over there. I'm not a Power Automate specialist, so I'd also have to take a look into those. The testing in Power Virtual Agents is basically what we saw when I was going through my bot. So basically going through the things, and then you can follow visually like, hey, I'm here in this topic, or I'm now jumping to this dialogue or whatever. Okay. Automated testing is always something difficult, I noticed. It's also one of those things that we also struggle with at customers. Usually it's business people who go through it. What I did find out, however, is that usually people directly call or whatever something goes wrong. And usually it's the business people who find out first, and then they come screaming and panic into the IT department.
Okay. And if you have any blogs or any YouTube channels, please share those as well so that attendees can follow you over there.
Okay. Well, you can follow also, of course, my blog. I'm basically currently writing my own blog engine. You can go to chrissandermaas.com. The last time I blogged was quite a while ago, but I hope in the coming few weeks, when time permits, I can start blogging again a bit. I really urge you to go to docs.microsoft.com. There's a wealth of information. There's some very good samples, like say, for example, that open weather thing that I showed you, like how it works and how you build it up completely from scratch. It's completely a sample, like in 7 steps from Microsoft documentation. It's really good. And furthermore, just experiment a lot. And whenever you don't know anything, that's how I also work. You just go to like Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever. or search on like forums. There is a very good forum for Power Automate, for Power Virtual Agent. Stack Overflow is also a potential place to be, or Microsoft questions and answers. That's basically how I also do it. Like you experiment, you learn. If you don't find, you search for it. And if you don't find the results by a search, you just go to either the documentation or just ask help on the forum.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Chris. I think it was a pretty good session. And
Okay,
if
thank you
anybody
very much.
has more questions, they can definitely reach out to you via Twitter or your email. And
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And I would say like have a great day furthermore with all the sessions.
You too. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye. And let's move to our next session today.